Prior to meeting Mike, a young Donna, or Madonna as she was officially named, was often teased for her long skinny legs and gangly appearance. But by the time she was ready to put away the dolls, Donna had grown into her legs, and on the night that she met Mike, it would be fair to say that she had become a doll herself. Mike, on the other hand, started out doll-like. That is, that he wore mainly dresses as a small child. The younger of two brothers, Mike was the baby of the family, an image he would try to shed in adolescence by making sure to always be seen with a cigarette in hand. While Donna was considered hot at the time of their meeting, Mike was, well, he was a musician. But when the two of them met on St. Patrick's Day in 1959, it was love at first tongue suck. They were young, inseparable, and in love. And they were broke. But that didn't stop Mike from borrowing $20 from his brother to marry Donna. So on July 17th, 1959, just 90 days after they met, with a rented suit and his signature cool-ass dude cigarette in hand, Mike made Donna his wife. And although the whirlwind marriage would indicate otherwise, it wasn't until the following year that they were blessed with a child. On December 14th, Mike's 21st birthday, Vincent David Freeman was born. Arriving prematurely, a problem that was rumored to haunt him throughout his days, little Vincent was immediately the joy of his young parents' life. It was quickly apparent that little Vincent inherited his mother's sense of style. Early family photos often captured son and mother looking stylish, but Dad... And this would be an issue that challenged Mike and Donna throughout their marriage. Looking cool, stylish, and sexy seemed to come so naturally to Donna, while for Mike, well, the dress wearing as a child seemed to have left its scars. Mike compensated as he always had, by being a musician. Playing drums and singing such classics as Tie Me Kangaroo Down Sport, Mike worked hard to prove that he was indeed cool and one of the guys. And for the most part, Mike's searching for his own coolness caused no problems for his young family. That is, except for the night when Vince had to fill in while his dad was out back smoking with the boys. Or the night that Donna had to dance with her jug to help earn enough money to pay the bills. While Donna and Vince would continue to bloom in their natural style and coolness, Mike would continue to question his own. As turbulent as the 60s were, there is no denying that it was a decade that in many ways became the very essence of cool. By the end of it, Vince had taken his wardrobe to another level. Donna had become a blonde bombshell, and Mike had traded the coolness of being a musician for a life of fast cars. It was a good period for Mike and Donna. They had a new home, Mike had a new career, and they were happy. Even after suffering a series of miscarriages, Donna seemed content with her cool son and her working on being cool husband. On the surface, everything looked perfect. Only if you looked very closely could you see the signs of the things that would continue to challenge this marriage and this family. Signs like Mike's continued smoking and insistence on wearing swimsuits that were too tight, and Donna's need to mother anything and everything, and the beginning of what would be the couple's lifelong obsession of dogs with beards. As the coolness of the 60s gave way to the hipness of the 70s, Mike and Donna again found themselves with a new home, new jobs, and faced with new challenges to their happy marriage. Mike gave up the cool-ass dude cigarettes for a porn star mustache, while Donna discovered curls. The couple also began to search religion for answers, although maybe initially in not the right manner. Overall, it was a time of hip clothes, hip vacations, hip partying, and all-around hipness. For the most part, Mike's struggle to find his inner coolness remained hidden from view, although concern began to build over his recent obsession with facial hair. And as the 70s came to a close, Mike and Donna seemed to become even happier simply by adding a mustache, some curls, and dogs with beards to their already full and happy lives. It was a happiness that would be strained by the changes and challenges that came with the 80s. Vince moved out of the house before he began to look too much like his mother. While he was gone, Mike and Donna faced a series of scandals. First, there was a shocking visit from the past that to this day no one really knows the whole story about. Then there was the period that Mike and Donna referred to simply as the wild days. Yet despite these events, Mike and Donna seemed only more resolute in declaring their lasting love for each other. And so, on their 25th wedding anniversary, they had the large church wedding that they couldn't afford to have 25 years before. It was a beautiful event, filled with family and friends, and for the most part one without scandal or controversy. Yet more change was on the horizon as Vince introduced his parents to a sexy, sultry Syrian girl named Carmen. Like his parents before him, Vince and his new girlfriend had a whirlwind romance that quickly led to marriage. The service was wild, yet lovely, and other than Donna's occasional obsession to prove that her boobs were indeed bigger, Carmen was welcomed into the family. A few years later, Mike and Donna would restore a large Victorian house in the small town of Atlanta, Indiana. It was here that Donna would bloom, throwing herself into making the house a place to entertain friends and family, provide for homeless cats, and host tea parties for her granddaughters. But while Donna was growing in her identity, things were not going as well for Michael. First, a series of mysterious pictures of Mike surfaced, bringing with them old questions of Mike's masculinity. Next, Mike began the habit of communicating with hand gestures. Initially it seemed cute. Next it became somewhat annoying, and eventually it bordered on the obscene. Finally, when Mike used one of these gestures in an ad for his local real estate business, his reputation in the community was ruined. Then, to the surprise of everyone, under these mysterious circumstances, Mike and Donna sold the house in Atlanta, loaded up a trailer, and moved west to Arizona. Although it is unknown whether they were running from a life or trying to find one, the results seem to have been the same. Together, they found a good life in the Arizona sun. Donna has adjusted, and as always has effortlessly found her own unique style. And Mike finally seems comfortable with himself, content just to express his style in hats. And that seems to suit Donna just fine.